Hello, hello, everybody. I am excited to talk dinero with all of you today. I have some, oh, I realized I didn't. Let me stop sharing for a second. I'm excited to talk dinero with all of you today. We have 20 people that signed up to be here, and I'm expecting a small little group. Good morning, Angelica. Good morning, everybody. I did it like every time I host Roth IRA office hours, it is the result of the questions that you provided me when you registered. And every time my slides are different. And so I am just going to make sure that we're on the right slide before I share again, and then we're going to get started. Please let me know in the chat where are you tuning in from. I am tuning in from Los Angeles. It is hot over here where I live right now. It's 80 degrees. Do we have any East Coasters here today? Let me know in the chat. Ooh, from Las Vegas. Florida's 22 degrees? I didn't even know it could get that cold. We're here from Dallas, San Jose. Nice, nice, nice. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and let's get to it. All right. I guess I should go into presentation mode. I'm hoping it doesn't act funky. Okay, good. All right, everybody. So this is the November Roth IRA office hours. This is our last Roth IRA office hours for this specific month, not month, year for 2025. So I'm excited to be spending 11/11 with all of you today. An important disclaimer is that all the information I'm going to share today does not provide legal, accounting, investment, or tax advice. Please make sure that you consult with a qualified professional for guidance on your specific legal, tax, investment, or accounting obligations. This is not personalized information. You submitted a question. I'm answering different questions. The more you share with me, the more insight I'll have, but we're not going to have enough time for us to do like a deep dive on any specific person. So this is, education. For those of you who don't know me, or maybe you're coming to this for the first time, and this is like the first time you see me on a webinar, I'm Rita Soledad Fernandez Paulino. I used to be a public school math teacher in 2019. I got so sick, I was put on disability. And my husband also had to shut down his company at that time. We had two kids, $7,000 in our savings account, and we had to rely on my disability checks. It was the first time in my life where I couldn't just make more money. And I didn't know when husband was going to make money. So it was challenging, but that's what motivated me at the age of 32 to increase my financial literacy and to learn how to build wealth. Since then, I am now on track to be able to retire early at the age of 47. So I increased my financial literacy at 32. Now I'm on track to retire early in 15 years because of my different investing strategies. I'm just letting a few more people into the space. So that's like a little about me. I am a bank rate expert contributor. I am the host of the Wealth para Todos podcast, which I hope you tune into every Sunday. We currently have 40 episodes. So if you want more information, make sure you binge the podcast. I am on a mission to help make sure that more progressive first gen and second gen wealth builders have a financial plan to retire early. For years, I would say, like, oh, I'm here to help Black, Indigenous people of color, women, and LGBTQ plus folk, but I'm not here to help Trump supporters, y'all. I'm not. So now I'm just letting people know I help progressives and I help people who were either like grew up in poverty or their parents grew up in poverty or in financial insecurity. And now they're working on increasing their financial security themselves. Okay. This is about y'all. Okay, so 20 people registered for this webinar. And let's see. We have, okay, so 20 people registered, and we currently have like 8 people in the space. So not everyone who registered is actually here, but this is what happened. Of the 20 people who registered, 50% have a Roth IRA, 15% are not sure if they have a Roth IRA, and 35% know that they don't have one. Of the people who do have a Roth IRA, 90% of them have never maxed it out. That means that they've never done the full amount that you can contribute, and 10% have. And then of the 20 people who registered, 50% are not interested in helping anyone else invest in a Roth IRA, contribute for a partner, a parent, a child. 20% want to, but they don't know how. And 30% are interested in doing that. These are the questions that you all submitted that impacted my slides, okay? And what we're going to be discussing today. So as you can see, there was a lot of questions in terms of the basics. How do I open a Roth IRA? Which stocks do I choose? I want to start slowly, but which bank do I use, or where can I start? What are the fees like? Does the bank I choose to open on the Roth IRA matter? How do I get the most back for my investment over time? How do I even get started? Can this be a set it and forget it account that just builds money for the future? Yes, I'll just answer that one right away. Yes, it can be. When's the best time to input money? Let's see, somebody asked. Will you share the slides or recording with us after today? Angelica, the recording gets uploaded to YouTube, but I don't share the slides. And were other questions. Okay, the best time to put in the money. What website do I use? How to set up one as a business owner. How to transfer from an old account with a previous employer. Where do I find more money to contribute to it? Can I have more than one account? How do I get money from it? We had questions regarding investments. What do I fund? Should I get rid of my advisor? How do we select investments? What are some things to look out for after opening the account and selecting the investment? My IRA gives me pennies for dividends. I'm sure I invested in index funds. How do I course correct if needed? I know I must be doing something wrong. And discussions about rollovers and existing accounts. Somebody said, I'm an unemployed stay-at-home mom. Right now, I have a 401k from a previous employer, turned to a traditional rollover. I think it's now a traditional IRA, but I'm not sure if I should touch it while I'm not contributing to it anymore. Any advice? And then someone else said, I just want to learn more. I have some money from an ex-husband after a divorce from his 401k, and I'm not sure what I should do with it. Should I roll it into an IRA or a 401k? We also have questions in terms of how do we withdraw the money? What's the process like? Are there penalties? Is there any money from the growth subject to taxes the year I take it out? Is it wise to withdraw from one of my accounts to pay off minor credit card debt? Why do I even want a Roth IRA when I have access to non-Roth IRA? Will the Roth IRA always be tax-free? With our crazy political climate, should I still invest right now? And how do I know if I am on track? All right. So these were all your questions, and these are the questions I want to answer. Now, I realize that some of you who submitted these questions might not be here with us today. I still want to try to answer them, at least so that you could watch them in the replay on YouTube. And if you come up with new questions as I'm discussing all of this, throw them in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring the chat. Like, I'm looking at this computer because I have another computer where the chat is at. And I'm going to be looking at it. Okay. So these are the questions that you started with. As I start sharing more stuff, more questions are going to come up. Cool. Drop them in the chat. I never updated this. What we're learning today is we're going to just be answering a lot of the questions that you shared. So we'll be talking about how to open up a Roth IRA, and I'm sharing with you all for the first time in Roth IRA office hours, screenshots of my own Roth IRA account and my rollover account. All right, so let's start off with these groups of questions. First, you're going to choose, these are the 4 steps to opening up a Roth IRA today, right now. Okay. First step is you choose a brokerage firm. So we had a lot of questions about like, oh, what bank can I open up a Roth IRA in? Not all banks are going to allow you to open up a Roth IRA because not all banks are brokerage firms. They don't allow you to do investing. These are some popular brokerage firms. Okay. And I shared these because I personally have investment accounts with these different brokerage firms. Fidelity, Vanguard, Charles Schwab, and E-Trade. Fidelity, I have an investment account with them. It's a taxable brokerage account. That's where I keep my house maintenance fund. Anytime I'm doing repairs for my house, I pull it from there. But I also have that money invested. In Vanguard is where I have several of my retirement accounts. I have I started off with my Roth IRA there. I have my taxable brokerage account for early retirement. And then I opened my solo 401k there, but they recently transferred it to a different brokerage firm. Charles Schwab is where I have a taxable brokerage account for my godchildren. E-Trade is where I had another taxable brokerage account when I was saving for the down payment of my house. So I have these brokerage firms. My favorite one is Fidelity. It's simple to open there. They have great customer service. My second favorite one is Vanguard. The reason why Vanguard is not my top is because Vanguard has certain restrictions. They want to make sure that you are not restrictions. They have certain contribution minimums. And to start investing with Vanguard, in order to buy index funds, you'd have to have at least $3,000 to get a target date fund, which is a type of asset down here. You'd have to invest with at least $1,000. So not everyone has like $1,000 that they could just start investing with at one time. Some of us are going to be investing poco poco, which is why I like Fidelity, because Fidelity allows you to do that. All right, we got a question. IRA contributions as an employee and an employer as an entrepreneur, small business owner. Do I have to put anything in writing? Good way to limit tax liability of business. Is there a limit to what I can invest as an employer? Okay, so something I want you to keep in mind is the IRA contributions. There's different types of IRAs, Kirsty. So there's a Roth IRA, there's a traditional IRA, there's a SEP IRA. A SEP IRA is probably the one that you're talking about because that one's going to allow you to contribute as an employee and as an employer. Roth IRAs and traditional IRAs are just based on your own individual contributions once you've already collected income and you've paid yourself. And each of these types of accounts are going to have different contribution limits. If you're trying to reduce tax liability for your business, it just gets a lot more nuance. And maybe we could talk about that during a one-on-one call. Okay. So these are the brokerage firms. This is where you would want to go to open one up. The next thing is that you would choose an account. This specific office hours is all about Roth IRAs. And in order, this is like my list of 10 reasons why you should open up a Roth IRA. I'm going to go ahead and drop that in the chat for y'all. Okay, how come I can't see the chat? There it is. Okay. So that is a link of all the reasons why we want to have a Roth IRA account. Okay. There's tax-free growth. There's free tax-free withdrawals at retirement. There's flexible contributions. You can withdraw money from your Roth IRA at any time, your contributions only. So if you put in $5,000 and then later on you want to pull out that $5,000, you can do that. The way that you would do that is you could always just call the customer service to support you, but you would sell and just pull out the 5,000. Okay. Jess says, all right, I'm seeing the chat and then I'm also seeing the list of things here. So I dropped this link for you. You guys can review all the reasons why I'm a big fan of a Roth IRA on your own time. That link has been shared. The key thing here is to make sure that you qualify. So in order to be able to contribute directly to a Roth IRA, you're going to have to be aware of what your tax filing status is. If you're married filing jointly, you need to make less than $230,000. That has to be your modified adjusted gross income. If you're single head of household, you need to make less than $146,000. Now, if you do make more money, You can still contribute to a Roth IRA, but you're going to have to do something called a backdoor Roth IRA, which just is a process. Okay. I'm not going to go. So that's the key thing. First, you have you choose your brokerage firm. Second step, realize whether you personally can qualify to open up a Roth IRA. It's going to be based on making sure that you meet these income limits and that you have earned income. So you cannot use you have to be collecting like a salary, right? You have to have salary, tips, wages in order to contribute to a Roth IRA. If you have a child and the child does not have a job, then the child cannot be contributing to a Roth IRA because they don't have earned income. There's other types of investment accounts you could do for a child, but a Roth IRA is not one of them. If you are married, filing jointly, and one of you is a stay-at-home parent and the other person is working, you can use your spouse's money to contribute to your Roth IRA. That's called like spousal IRA regulations. So the only kind of like exception around the earned income is if you're married, then you're allowed to use your partner's income. Oh, good. Okay, Jess, thank you for letting me know that you want to talk about the backdoor Roth IRA option. Yeah. Something to also keep in mind here is that this is your modified adjusted gross income. So you take your salary, you subtract your 401k contributions, you subtract your FSA or HSA contributions. That leftover money has to be less than 230 or 146. All right. So if you know that you can contribute to a Roth IRA, then you're going to choose that account. What that will look like here in Fidelity is that you just go to their website and you go open an account and you say retirement and IRAs, and you say you want to open a Roth IRA. If you don't already have any information with them, then you would say no. And then you would have to provide this information: your identity, first and last name, your employment information, your social security number. You'll create a username and a password, and your account will be open quickly. Like less than 10 minutes is how quick you can open up your Roth IRA. Once that account is open, the next step is to make your contributions. The minimum amount varies and the maximum varies based on your age. Okay. So when I say the minimum amount varies, is because if you only made $4,000 this year, then the maximum that you can contribute to your Roth IRA is $4,000. And that's like kind of helpful for people who are investing on behalf of their children. If you have like your whole, you're working full time, you have a job, and now there's going to be a maximum. And the maximum that you can contribute, we could look again at the IRS website, is going to change every single year. When I opened up my Roth IRA in 2020, the maximum that you could contribute was $6,000. Now in 2025, if you're under the age of 50, you can contribute $7,000. If you're 50 or older, you can contribute $8,000. Okay. As long as you have like that earned income. And notice that these are the same rules for a traditional IRA, which, by the way, I think someone asked, which is better, a traditional IRA or a Roth IRA? I have a traditional one with Robinhood and a Roth IRA with Fidelity. They just serve different purposes, right? And a Roth IRA is going to allow you to invest and have money that you can pull out at any time, and your contributions at any time. And you're also going to have tax-free income at retirement. If you do not have an employer retirement account, then contributing to a traditional IRA will help you reduce your tax liability. So that can sometimes benefit someone. In general, the reason why I like to do Roth IRA office hours is because I believe we can all benefit from having money that we know for sure is going to be 100% tax-free available to us in the future. Oh. And Lori, did you have a question?
No.
I'm going to read you. So I teach people that because the 4 steps to investing in a Roth IRA are also the same 4 steps to invest in any type of investment account. And so when you learn how to invest in a Roth IRA, which I believe everyone should have, then you can apply that to other accounts. 529, a college savings accounts for kids, a taxable brokerage account, your employer retirement account, right? You can apply that same information to the other areas. That's why I'm always like, everybody, let's get a Roth IRA. Okay. Ibis, let me know if that answered your question or if you have any. Oh, okay, good. You said thank you. All right. So you make your contributions, you put your money in there, and then you have to choose your assets. These are your investments. I want to show you guys real quickly that when I opened up my Roth IRA, I went with Vanguard and I contributed $2,000. This was back in 2020. Okay. Notice that the way I can tell that I have a Roth IRA is because it says Roth IRA brokerage account. If you're not sure if you currently have a Roth IRA, look for that. Okay. I'll either say Roth IRA, traditional, taxable brokerage account, 401k, 403b, whatever your account says, it's going to say that in front of it. So here's my name. Here's the account. I covered my account number. And you'll see here that it all says self-managed. I'm not using an advisor. It's just me. All right. So I put money into this account, 2000, and where it first landed was this VMFXX. Okay. That is a money market fund. It's all like, it's just cash. It's not invested in stocks. It's not invested in bonds. Notice that I was already collecting some dividends from this account, but the dividend amount was 24 cents or 7 cents. It was very little bit amount. So one of you said, I have a Roth IRA, but I'm getting pennies in my dividends. I wonder if you haven't selected your index funds. If not, all that money is in there. Because once I took that $2,000 and I chose to invest it in here, VTI and VTSAX, those are the ticker symbols. Notice that I went from pennies, cents to dollars in terms of dividends. And I did choose to reinvest everything, so I kept going into each of those. Now, when you guys say like, oh, what should I invest in? It's going to be a personal choice. It's going to be reflective of your own values, also your risk tolerance. When I started to invest, it's funny because these accounts these assets are very similar. They both track the entire total stock market in the United States. One is an ETF and one is an index fund. And I think I chose these because I was just curious to see, should I do an index fund or should I do an ETF? What I'd like to show you, so these are your assets, right? You could choose an index fund. And I will drop this link here in the chat so you can learn more about index funds. And you'll see that this is a government website that is explaining what index funds are. Index funds were not always something that was available for us to invest in. There was a time when we really did need to have financial advisors who were selecting all these individual stocks. Now it's a lot easier to invest because of index funds, and then also because of ETFs, which you could learn about ETFs also on that same website, okay, at investor.gov. I'm going to go ahead and drop this off. So the big difference is that ETFs are traded like stocks throughout the day, but it's going to be a bucket of different companies. So when we're looking at what I first invested in, right, we could look up the ticker symbol. We have VTI, and you'll see here on Google what it looks like. So it's 2025, about 5 years ago, right? So if we look at the 5-year difference, you'll see what the price was for this ETF and then what the price is now. Can you guys see that? You see that here, that $183.32 versus now it being $335. That is one way that your money makes you money, besides the dividends. And you'll also see how it's changing. The value of it changes in real time. It has gone up in the past 5 years. The value of that ETF has gone up 83%. So way above inflation. And that is one of the values of making sure that we're investing to protect our money from inflation. And I think this is important to notice if we even looked at the max. So this was 2001. In 2001, the investment was $57.79. I moved it. Yeah. It was that same ETF. If I had purchased it in 2001, I would have only paid $57.79. And considering that I purchased like $1,000 worth of it, we're going to do 1,000 divided by $57 would mean that I would have had this amount of shares. That's how many I would have been able to purchase of the ETF. So I would have 17.5 shares. And if I had then look at the value of it now, right? So now it's worth 335. And I have this amount of shares that I've purchased times 335. We can see that $1,000 would have gone up up to 5,877. That is just the valuable part about investing and something that we want to keep in mind. When we look specifically at my account, so when I first started, I was getting pennies because I wasn't invested in stocks. I wasn't invested in bonds. So I only had a little bit amount of money. Once I started to contribute, now I started collecting dollars on a monthly basis for my dividends that I was choosing to reinvest. So now my money was earning me money, plus it would get added together, and then it was investing, and now I was able to buy more of the shares. So you see that? With $21.67, I was only able to buy like a partial share, but I still was able to buy shares. If we look at that account now, my Roth IRA, what happened? Okay, the slides are all equivocados. The Roth IRA account, this is not the one. There it is. So my Roth IRA now in 2025, so this was like as of October, notice that the prices of these have gone up. I'm still collecting dollars every single month from dividends. The contribution that I made has changed, right? Because I did contribute more. But the price of VTA when I bought it in 2020 was $154. Now this should say 2025, it's $327. So it's not like that big jump compared to if I had purchased it in 2001, but it did like basically kind of double in price. Yeah, it did. It went more and double in price in 5 years. So that is why the value of my account has gone up. The same thing with VTSAX. It was in 2020, around $80. Now it's around $159. Also has almost doubled. These are both, again, total US stock market. You have lots of options. You can invest in the US stocks, you can invest in US bonds, you can invest in international stocks, you could invest in international bonds. Those are like the 4 top index funds that you can choose. All right, let me see this chat to see what other questions are coming up. Okay. So Jess, you said you have a Fidelity account, you're confused, you put money in and it says I have it in my account, but that it's not invested. Yeah, so it's very much possible that you have it in a money market account, the way I had my money in a money market account, right? Like it's just in this settlement fund. And you actually have to now go choose investments. Besides index funds and ETFs, you can also choose to invest in a target date fund. And let's talk about those. Oh, you know what? I also want to give you guys another look at this. So if we look at VTI and we go actually to Vanguard, what we see here is the ticker symbol. It tells us that we're investing in the total stock market. We live in the United States, so we're assuming that it's the United States total stock market. The expense ratio, this is key information that you need to pay attention to, is how much it costs to invest in. So this expense ratio is you're going to pay a fee to be investing, and you want to keep this amount as low as possible. This is an ETF with a very low expense ratio. Sometimes when people are investing with a advisor, they can charge up to like 1% of your investments. So let's say that right now you have $0, but you plan to max out your Roth IRA every single year, $7,000, and you plan to do that for the next 15 years, and that your rate of return, we're going to say the rate of return that VTI has. This has been the year-to-date rate of return, so 16%. But you don't ever want to do just the year-to-date. You want to look at more information, the more years as possible. So if we look at since its inception, the rate of return has been around 9%. The past 10 years, it has had a 14% rate of return. I'm going to go with this lower amount, the 9%. If you are investing with an advisor who's charging you 1%, then over time, you will lose out in $19,000 in fees. But if you know and you feel confident choosing your own investments, and let's say that this was something I was doing, right? Because I did invest in VTI and my expense ratio is 0.03%. Notice the difference between how much I'm going to pay in fees. Only $604 over the lifetime of having this money invested. And over time, at this rate of return, I'll get around $228,000, even though what I will have contributed is $7,000 times 15. So I contribute 105 and my money doubles being invested in the stock market. All right, let's talk about, all right, Curtis, you have a question. Does investing in international foreign stock markets count as international foreign income? Oh, good question. No, it doesn't. Good question. No, if we looked at I don't know if I have, let's see, international stocks, ETFs. So I'm trying to get a ticker symbol. Okay, so here we have VXUS. This is Vanguard's total international stock index fund. It's an ETF. If we look at the actual brokerage firm page for here at Vanguard, now we can get that expense ratio. So the expense ratio is 0.05. Key things you want to look at whenever you're choosing your investments is your expense ratio and your rate of return. So notice that this one, year to date, it's been performing really well, right? If we're only looking at this specific year, it has a 28% rate of return. If we look at the past year, 1 year. But when we look at its inception from 2011, it's been less. The past 10 years, 7.85. You might look at this and be like, oh, well, I'm seeing that it's increasing. And so there might be, in terms of your portfolio, like let's say you were also investing with $2,000, you might say like, you know what, I want to be investing more in international stocks because I'm seeing that it's kind of, it's having a higher performance. So we want to look at the rate of return. If we were going to look, like I said, I always like to look at the most amount of time because past performance doesn't guarantee future performance. And we want to be conservative in what we expect our money to provide us in the future. And so I would do the 5.84, put that same as our rate of return, and the expense ratio is 0.05. So this is different compared to the international stocks. I mean, not the international stocks, the US stocks. And notice the difference in terms of how much money I would end up at the end. I would still be putting in $105,000, but if this is my rate of return, then I'm not going to, and if this is my rate of return and a little higher in expense ratio, then I'm not going to get the most amount of money. Your rate of return is really important. If you look at high yield savings accounts right now, they have like around a 3% rate of return. Their expense ratios are 0. But if you just keep your money in a high yield savings account, then over 15 years, your 105 is going to grow to $134,000. Is it growth? Yes. Is it the most growth possible? No. This is why we want to be, looking at investments. If we did something like, if we invested in an asset that was giving us a 14% rate of return, and we'll do a 0.08 expense ratio, notice how much more money we can get. All right. So Evie says, do you invest like 3,500 in VTI and 3,500 in VTSAX? How do we know how much to split it in every year? That's a good question. Let me get us a new slide so we can talk about it. Let me get out of here. All right, I'm going to create a slide about this. So this has to do with your, we call it portfolio diversity. Okay. Diversity, it could also be like how to create a balanced portfolio. Your portfolio is everything that you have invested in. Oh, you know what? I actually have a slide about this already from a previous training. So let me just pull up that one. You're choosing your investments. You're choosing how to open it up. We talked about that. Okay, so here's your blended portfolio. It's going to be a mix between stocks and bonds. Now, my portfolio that I started my Roth IRA with was only US stocks. It didn't even have any international stocks. It didn't even have any bonds. That is going to be a reflection of your personal risk tolerance. So one of the things that you can do is you can take a quiz to see like how much do you want to be putting in each account, and how do you want to separate it. If we look at a target date fund, which I did eventually buy a target date fund with Vanguard, I'm going to show you how they split it up based on your age and when you plan to retire. So I was learning, come on. They're always changing their websites, so then you can't always like look it up. So specifically here, we're looking at a target date retirement fund of 2050. So if you plan to retire in 2050, then this is a ticker symbol. This is something that you could purchase. Okay. Notice that this is somebody else managing your account. This is for those of you who are like, can I just set it and forget it? This is one of the ways that you could set it and forget it and make sure that you have a balanced portfolio between stocks and bonds. Notice that the expense ratio is a little higher, that you need to have that minimum investment of $1,000 here with Vanguard. At Fidelity, you wouldn't have to do that. And they're choosing the investments for you. They're balancing your portfolio as you get older to make sure that you have more bonds versus stocks. This is how they divided the portfolio. And Ibis, this is something that you might consider to model your portfolio after this, where you could do like 54% or 55, we'll just round, 55% in total US stocks, 37% in international stocks. So notice combined, that is over 90% of your portfolios in stocks. And then having this bond portfolio and US bonds and international bonds and the percentages there. So that's one way that you can model it. Now, again, it's going to depend on your own risk tolerance. Personally, I have a pretty high risk tolerance. I'm okay with having a lot of money in stocks because I'm trying to have that highest rate of return as possible. One of you asked, like, how do I get my highest rate of return? You're going to invest in stocks. Now, notice though, in my Roth IRA, that you can invest in stocks individually, like if I wanted to, and I do, like I own Costco stock. And notice that Costco stock, back when I bought it, actually, I don't even think I bought it in 2020, but I probably bought it in 2022. Costco stock, and 3 years ago was $567 for one share. Now it's up 914. So you can buy individual stocks in a company, but you could also go with an index fund or ETF where you buy a whole basket full of them. And when you're investing in the total stock market, you're saying, I'm investing in every publicly traded company in the United States, or I'm trading in every publicly traded company in the world when you do international stocks. Okay. Kirsty says, how can we invest in index funds that align with our progressive values? So that is key, because if you notice that back in 2020, when I first started investing, I had my stocks in the total stock market. The total stock market is going to include companies that are manufacturing weapons. They're going to include companies that are funding ICE detention centers. And some of y'all might be like, no, I'm not trying to deal with that. And though you might not have as much flexibility and choice in your employer retirement account, you do get to choose that. Be aware of that when it comes to your Roth IRA. And what you'll want to do is invest in ESGs. No. Ethically. So here we can look for an ESG index fund. And here NerdWallet will share with you some of the best performing ones in this month. This is all stuff that you guys can always Google on your own time. And it tells you like what is the performance so far in the year. So these look like high rate of returns. But remember, I never like to look at something based on the specific year, based on 1 year. We want to collect as much data as possible and be mindful of that. So if we looked at this ESG account, these are some of the cheapest ones, and they're saying cheapest because of the expense ratio. Okay. Oh, this is a good one, right? ESGV. This is a Vanguard ethical stock investment, and it's the US stock. Now, if we look more specifically, what this means is that they're not going to be investing in weapons. So here you can start to look. It's screened for environmental, so it's also going to have like they're not going to be investing in like any oil companies, anything that would cause more pollution to the environment. Social is usually having to do around wars and weapons and things like that. And then corporate, that's where it's going to be like maybe that they kind of care like a little bit more about diversity. For sure. When you are choosing to invest in this ESG US stock fund, you are not investing in anything that is related to adult entertainment, alcohol, tobacco, weed, gambling, chemical and biological weapons, anti-personal landmines, nuclear weapons, conventional military weapons, civilian firearms, nuclear power, coal, oil, or gas. Okay, these are the things that are completely excluded. Notice That's it excludes stocks of companies that do not meet certain labor, human rights, environmental, and anti-corruption standards. But if we take a closer look at what this ETF holds and what is being sold, we could look at the portfolio composition. It has a total of 1,277 stocks. Is it not going to tell us what is inside here? Fund management, dividends. Oh, okay. So notice that these are some of the holdings, some of the top holdings. It includes Apple, it includes Microsoft, it includes Amazon, and it includes Facebook. So even with these ESG stock, ESG labels, it still has these other companies that we know can be very problematic. And so that's something that gets hard in terms of your progressive values, that you realize like, oh, how am I supposed to increase my financial security, live in a country that isn't fair and equitable because of capitalism, and at the same time, like, what do I choose? You know, so that's something that you have to reflect on. Kirsty, let me know if that answers your question. Okay. All right, we have about 13 minutes left. I want to just review the questions that you guys submitted here in advance to make sure that I've answered those. Oh, how to create a balanced portfolio. Oh, great question. Jess says, are there truly any ethical index funds? It's gonna really depend on your values. Personally, I'm not somebody who's like against weed and cannabis, right? But these, so like that wouldn't necessarily bother me, but I am against, wars and weapons, anything around weapons. That's something that I don't like. One way that you make sure that you're not investing in those things would be stocks, individual stocks, and choosing companies. Yeah, just as I would rather invest in weed than Tesla too. I'm in California, y'all. I'm in California. So weed over here is it's a different relationship. I used to live in New York City, and like weed over there is like, you'll get in trouble, right? It's very different. So each state has different laws. And I know not everyone who's attending today is from California. So I just want to share that, right? With index funds, it's harder. It's just harder to get the right combination that you want. There has to be demand. And that's one of the things that, like, when more progressive folk are investing, like I imagine like being able to communicate to these brokerage firms saying, hey, I want an index fund, and I want an index fund that is going to support companies that support DEI, companies that are, paying their employees a livable wage. Like we can say that, voice for that. And I would dream of one day having, an index fund where it did feel like all the companies were a lot more ethical. Right now, no, we don't, Jeff. And I wish that wasn't true. Okay, what I wanted to also show you guys, because there was some of you who asked about a rollover IRA. So I wanted to show you that with my rollover IRA, this was money that I had with a previous employer, right? You'll see that, let me make this bigger. So again, I transferred this money. I opened up a rollover IRA with Vanguard. I transferred the money there. I had money from two sources. I had money that I had invested in a 403B when I was 23 years old working as a teacher. Every month, I pulled out $500 from my paycheck, and it was going into my employer retirement account. I only did that for 4 years. So $500 times 12, that's $6,000, times 4 is $24,000. For 4 years, when I was a teacher in New York City, I had a total of $24,000 in contributions. Well, Later on, now I'm in my 30s, and I'm like, oh, learning about my personal finance information, learning and increasing my financial literacy. And I was like, oh, I must have a retirement account with the school that I worked with in New York City. So I was 23 years old. I invested until I was 27. I later on checked at the age of 32. Well, that $24,000 had grown to this amount right here, $67,446.84. And I pulled the money out from over there and I started to manage my own investments. Notice that when I put the money in, it went into that settlement fund first. This money right here was from when I was working in California as a teacher, and I had a CalSTRS account. That's like our pension here in California. And I had worked there for 3 years. I didn't even know, like, not that I didn't know, I just, yeah, I wasn't aware that money was being pulled out of my paycheck and being contributed to this pension. I only worked as a teacher here in California for 3 years. And in order for my money to be vested and be able to have that money at retirement, I needed to work as a teacher for 5 years. And I wasn't really sure that I was going to go back into the classroom. So I decided to cash out my pension. All the money that had been contributed from my paycheck towards this pension was this amount right here. This 1,502 and the 16,000. So a total of $17,822.23. In total, that was $85,269.07. So I pulled out that money from my previous employers, moved it into a rollover IRA, had all that money there. And at first, it was just in a settlement fund. It was just a money market fund. Then I chose my investments. For this account, the investments I chose were here. Okay. So I bought, with that money that I had, these assets. Don't ignore this because that's wrong. I bought BTSAX, which is the Total Stock Market Index Fund, BBTLX, which is US bonds, a combination of both. Then with this money here, the same thing. That's what I purchased. That was in 2020. 3 years later, that $85,000 had grown to over $100K passively, with me not doing anything. Just that money invested, me choosing my own investments, making sure I had index funds with low expense ratios. Because I wanted to do a backdoor Roth IRA, which Jess, this is something that I believe you're the one who was interested in backdoor Roth IRAs. I had to make sure not to have any money in a rollover IRA. So in order for me to continue to contribute to a Roth IRA, I had made too much money. I couldn't contribute directly to a Roth IRA anymore. I had to take all this money and move it into my solo 401k. I had already started my business. I had my retirement account for that. I moved that money into my solo 401k. Now the value of that account is, I want to say, like, I don't know if it's 235,000 or 265. I posted it to my IG stories recently, but it's above 200K. And again, a big part of that portfolio was just from the $24,000 that I had invested in back when I was 23 years old and had been working as a teacher. So for those of you who have employer retirement accounts from other employers, that is something that you guys should collect, look, because it is possible that you're paying high expense ratios, high fees, and you're not getting to keep as much of your money. Kirsty says, do yearly investment limits also apply to rollovers? No, they do not apply to rollovers. That's why I was able to take all this money, more than 6,000, more than 7,000, and move it into a rollover IRA. It only has to do with your new contributions that those limits apply. So again, for those of you who have rollovers, look into it, go through the process. You're going to have to call your old employer. You're going to have to open up a rollover IRA, which you'll do the same steps over here. You choose your brokerage firm, you open up a rollover IRA, you call your past employer, say that you want to roll it over. You usually just fill out a paperwork, like one form, you get it signed, they do it, and then it's like 30 to 60 days that money has transferred. You don't have to worry about contributions. It's going to be whatever money you had from a previous employer, and then you're going to choose your assets. You could do index funds and ETFs, like I showed you in my portfolio today. You could also do target date funds. It's going to be a great way to have a balanced portfolio that you just set and forget. And that's it, y'all. I'm looking at our time. We have 4 minutes left. I want to share the following with you. If this is stuff that you're like, okay, I'm interested, but you don't necessarily feel like you're going to take action on it, then I want to invite you to book a discovery call with me today. I do individual, I do one-on-one coaching, and I also have a group program called Wealth para Todos Academy. Here, you can book a call. You could see like the availability I have. In this form, I'm going to ask you to like put in your name, your email. How did you hear about Wealth para Todos one-on-one coaching? There's all these different choices. And then what are you looking for in a money and self-care coach? What does financial security look like for you, and what's currently getting in the way? And then letting you know that it costs $4,111 to work with me one-on-one. And I want to know for you, what would make it worth it after 12 months? What do you want to have accomplished? Working with me one-on-one is a 4-month commitment. It comes with 12 45-minute private one-on-one calls. You get to message me via WhatsApp, so text me questions in between our calls. And you also get access to Wealth para Todos Academy. That's my 12-month group program. In that program, we have 9 live coaching calls. We have a curriculum. We have a coaching form. There's like ways that you can get coached in between sessions. So the idea is that you work with me one-on-one for 4 months. Then you still have access to me as your money and self-care coach for an additional 8 months. I've had clients that started working with me one-on-one in 2021 who are still working with me now in 2025 because I have helped them increase their financial security in different ways. There's clients who, like a lot of my clients have been with me like for a few years, and it's because we're always working on increasing your financial security, learning how to max out your retirement accounts, organizing all of your accounts so you have a lot of clarity in terms of where you want your money to go, and making sure that your money is going to make you money as you sleep, that is going to increase your financial security. Not only do I talk about investing in one-on-one coaching, I also talk about debt payoff plans, savings, also couples finances. So I do also work with couples. And yeah, if you're interested, if there's any part of you that's like, this is interesting, I tell you to schedule this call. This discovery call is a free 45-minute call. On that call, we'll discuss your answers to these questions, and I'll talk to you about whether working with me one-on-one is a good fit. I might also say to you, you know what, you should join Wealth para Todos Academy instead. Wealth para Todos Academy is $1,111. Or we have a payment plan of 5 payments of $225. Wealth para Todos Academy will be opening up in December. And then sometimes I even tell you, you know what? My programs are not the right fit for you, but I have a friend and you should work with this person instead, or you should work with this person, or here's some books and these are some resources. So, yeah, I invite you to schedule a call to learn more about working with me one-on-one. I would love to be your money and self-care coach. Angelica says that she opened her Roth IRA, but it says it can't link your bank account. Whether you did this with Fidelity or Vanguard, whatever brokerage firm, go ahead and call their support with Fidelity. So call their customer support and let them know that you're getting that message, and they'll walk you through the steps. All right, everyone. You guys have a wonderful 11/11, and tune into the Wealth para Todos podcast. Hasta luego.